So, I want to talk about therapy in 2021. I remember growing up from my grandmother and just this negative connotation that therapy has had on people. Growing up, even as far as in mind you, I was born in 87, but just there is always this negative thought and ideology around therapy from movies and TV shows that our own real life people adopted and adapted, saying, oh, if you go to therapy, that means you're crazy. They used to say offensive words like whack job or nut job or something's wrong with you. And it's such a terrible way of thinking because let's say you're thinking about therapy and you're talking to someone about this and they say that it almost makes you kind of question yourself unless you're the type of person that's like, well, I'm not going to talk to you about my therapy experience. I've gotten to the point where I own the fact that I'm in therapy. And I believe I've gotten on here, I don't know if I've shared the video, but I told my story about finally coming out to my family about being in therapy. And they were supportive and some people were confused. um I didn't really give a full breakdown as to the way I grew up and the things that I experienced. I kind of dealt with that on my own, and having someone who's a professional who understands the minds and the brains and how we work helps me understand myself and break some of those stigmas and some of those things that I experienced growing up. I could have said something like that. um, but the people around the table were very supportive because they understood why I was going to therapy without me being just blatantly obvious and saying it. We were at dinner with my family. I'll tell the story again. And I had just owned up to the fact that I was going to therapy. And I'd had the conversation with my mom on the way. And then I mentioned it again, or we mentioned it again somehow in dinner. And I might have been a little snarky and snappy because at that time I was kind of defensive because I knew the wall that I was going to be up against or the ideologies I was going to be up against by saying that I was going to therapy. But at this point, I didn't care. I'm owning it. I've been in therapy for a few years now, and I owned up to the fact that I'm in it. Before COVID, I've been going to therapy. And so it's come in quite handy since COVID. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And so I just went on and I mentioned it. And my mom was kind of like, what? She was kind of confused. She thought I needed therapy because of my ex husband. So, no, I needed therapy because of your husband, my dad, and you too, a little bit. So, I kind of alluded to that without being as direct and straightforward. My uncle was there, my sister was there. They were very supportive. They understood because of what my childhood was like. They understood why I needed therapy. And so it felt really good and that helped me. And even if they didn't, I was still going to stand in my truth and still accept it and be okay about it. So I mentioned it. Now my mom knows. She doesn't say anything. And, if anyone has any questions or thoughts, I just say it. And in fact, my cousin's mother passed away this year. And I was just talking about, I had an appointment, I had therapy. I'm not afraid of it. And I was kind of nervous of talking to my grandmother about it because she's old school. She understood. She said, just having somebody to talk to. She completely understood. She took it better than I thought because it's those elders that you hear usually are the ones who are very negative about the idea of it. Um, and I sometimes think that people pay attention to their life and just wish that they had someone to talk to in that way. And so people are very supportive. And so when my cousin's mother passed away, she and my sister were both told me, I think I need to go to therapy. I think I'm going to go look through my insurance. I'm going to try to find a way to go to therapy. We need to learn how to normalize it. And I think we have. You can't go through a YouTube video without hearing about a company called BetterHelp, which this video was sponsored, right? And hearing about all the different ways that that therapy is out there, that we have access to it. I watch a few psychologists who talk about things that are going on in the world or topics today, and they relate it from a psychological standpoint. And it's so very, very fascinating to listen to. So the interest in therapy and self-help and self-care has definitely been prevalent since COVID. I feel it's a shame. I feel that mental health still has its people still have their schemas or their stigmas, or you can tell I watch psychology videos because of the words I'm using. They still have their ideologies on it, especially with the way Simone Biles was treated, that people still feel a way about therapy and mental illness. They used to give lobotomies to people who had mental illness. They think you were so unfit that they'd have to take a portion of your brain and thinks that that would help you. And for some people it did, but for 70 something percent of them it did not. Okay? I watched a video on the history of lobotomies. It was a tragic and horrible experience. They think cutting out a portion of your brain solved everything, or they were just doing it for the money, or probably both. But either way, the point is, we're getting to the point now where it's starting to be more acceptable. You're starting to normalize it. People are actually reaching out. I wonder what are the stats of psychological help. What are the stats of people getting therapy since COVID and then since the rise of the ads that we have been hearing about? I have my own therapy. Like I said, I've been going for I don't know how long. I always say before COVID to give a timeline. Because that's how my life is before, during, or after COVID, is how I usually describe the timeline of things. So I was already very comfortable in myself and in um, going to therapy. And then COVID came. And I wonder if more people started realizing when we're living by ourselves, we need help. The wheels were starting to turn that people were using all these different things to help get them through, and it wasn't working. Um, it made them or their environments more toxic, and they're starting to see that therapy could very well be a good idea. And I hope that more and more people each day learn and not necessarily study, but accept the importance of mental health and trying to work on those issues. But for me, I'd always been interested in psychology. So going into therapy was nothing. And I had a moment where when I was married, I really struggled with going into therapy because there were some deep-seated things there that I wasn't ready to talk about. But you go when you're ready. I try not to beat myself up because I called, I had a therapist, I could walk to the office and I still didn't go. And I beat myself up because I really needed to go to therapy. And I wonder how it would have helped my marriage if I'd went. I wonder. But I went when I did. I had gone through the worst moments of my life. So when I went to therapy, I was just like, I just need somebody to talk to. But I'd always been interested in psychology. I dabbled in it in college. I took a few courses in psychology in college, discovered that that's not what I wanted. I've always been interested in the human brain and how it works and what causes people to be who they are. I love a good origin story. What's the why? What makes you tick? Why do you have that short temper? Why are you so emotionally detached from your children? I've always been interested in these types of things. And I love having friendships with people where our minds can just go there. Our minds go deep into some thoughts and ideas, and there's wisdom. And I just love these conversations. And I love that I can go there with my therapist and that I have a few people around me that I can go there with, and even spiritually and intellectually and from a biological standpoint. I love it. We don't have these conversations enough, but if I wanted to, I can call any of them up right now and we could just go on and on and on. And a lot of people don't have that. We still have people who don't believe therapy is a good idea. Or they may have people around that they can talk to about these things and they just don't know it because of the stigma that we've put on therapy and mental health, meaning something is wrong with you. Yes, something is wrong with all of us. There are some people who have gone through life maybe unscathed, or maybe they don't realize that they've got issues because they've had to normalize it because the people around them made it normal. Everyone has issues and problems. So don't try to say, oh, something's wrong with you. Yes, that's why I'm in therapy. You can try to make it negative all you want. I'm aware. I know my issues. If not, my therapist will help bring them to my attention. Something's wrong with you as well, okay? They always say when you're pointing one finger, the three pointed back at you. Yes. We all, in my opinion, need therapy. After COVID, we all need therapy. Before COVID, we all needed therapy. Because look at the way that the world is, the way with the racism and the way this world is today shows that we need help outside of ourselves and with professionals and people who've gone to school for this with the intentions of helping us. We need to use them. We need to be like them. We need to ask the right questions. So I like to watch therapists because they help me from a relational standpoint on how to communicate better or how to get in touch with my own feelings that I struggle with. And so I have plenty of reasons. It depends on what I'm fishing for that day. And so we need to continue to normalize therapy. And it took for COVID to happen, which I hate that it took such a drastic, traumatic experience for us to want to get into therapy. But hey, if it works, it works. I'm going to look up some stats and some information to see, has there been a spike and increase in therapists since COVID. And it doesn't matter which type of therapy. There's psychology, psychiatry, cognitive. There's so many different types. Find which one works for you. You may have a therapist that you don't like. Try again. They don't take it personal. They understand if you guys aren't gelling, you guys aren't gelling, you know? And sometimes you may have an issue with your therapist when it might not be them. It could be you having a hard time opening up or having a hard time trusting. I had a particular issue I was nervous with talking to my therapist about, and she was just looking like, really? She wasn't judging me, but it's like, why would you have a hard time talking to me about, you can talk to me about everything, you know? So that was me. That was my trip up. Had nothing to do with her. She is great. I can talk to her about everything. And doesn't that feel good and refreshing? There are people who don't know that that help is available, nor do they want to get it, or they worry about their insurance. It's understandable financially. The first thing that comes to mind, my therapy is free and it's really good. If I want to go out and get a different type of therapy, I would have to pay for it. And it's something that I'm not ashamed of investing in. And I see different therapists and I'm like, God, I want you to be my therapist. But God, I know I can't afford you. So I understand. But try to get what you can, even as a counselor, just to talk to someone, get that thing out for that moment. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. You listen to YouTube videos, you watch ads all day. How can you not know about BetterHelp? Even if you don't pay for the ads, now the people who do the videos do their own ads and sponsors and put them in the videos to make you listen to them now, because they've had to figure out a new way to get people to listen to the ads, because people pay to not have them, such as myself. I hate ads, but I still get them because they'll go, now a word from our sponsor, just like a commercial, and I can't stand it. So I know about BetterHelp. It doesn't mean you do. But if you've never heard of BetterHelp, here is an example of one place you can go to for therapy. You can type up therapist in the area near you. Like I said, this video is not sponsored. I just wanted to give an example that there are companies out there looking to help people, and that is one of them. And there are many others as well. So there's no excuse. Get the help you need and deserve. I sound like an ad. Get the help you need and deserve for the betterment of you and your family and your loved ones, because a better you makes a better world. Oh my God, I sound so cliche. Okay, maybe it's time to end the video, because I want to talk about the importance of therapy. Now I sound like I'm a spokesperson for it, but in a way I am. I'm always promoting it. What would the world be like, or what would your family members be like if they just had someone to talk to instead of sitting in angry and isolation, for whatever reason, and not dealing with their grief in a healthy way? It's just, you got to see people for where they are and what they've gone through. And if you don't have those conversations to communicate with them, how will you know that they've gone through X, Y, and Z? We're so quick to judge people without realizing maybe they're bitter that their mother passed away when they were 12. Maybe they're angry because their hero died when they were 7. Maybe they're sad because they just lost 3 people in 1 week to COVID. It's not always about you. It's about what they have gone through. And sometimes we have to see past the actions of a person, because the actions are symptoms of the why. It gets to the core, or the who. But that's a story for another day, I guess. And I'm done with this video. I'm done with this long rant about the importance of therapy. And I hope that by the end of it, it's encouraged you to consider it or talk about the benefits. What are your benefits? How long have you gone to therapy? Post it down in the comments. How long have you been going to therapy? What has it done for you? Have you had to try new therapists over the years? Tell us your experience in a respectful and a mature way. And we need to create a community of being supportive. #normalize therapy. Okay? So thank you guys for listening. I hope this helped you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.